Hello to the chicas and the chicas. Today I'm going to combine two things in one go. The first one is that I'm going to announce that a new Chessable course has dropped by yours truly, and that is Andras Toth's Chess Basics Opening Strategy. The strategy part is not on the screen for you, but trust me, it is right there. Actually, I will show you. So there you have it. That is a very beginner oriented course about opening principles, opening concepts that everyone should learn before they learn their very first opening. And it is also going to be an inside my head where I'm going to demonstrate, hopefully, that these beginner concepts go quite high up in terms of how applicable they are. And the very first concept that we are going to see now from that course is that whenever your opponent allows you to do so, you should try to obtain the center with both the E and the D pawns. And in fact, most good openings by black try to prevent that from happening, and my opponent failed to do anything about preventing my pawn formation to be present in the center like so. Consequently, they are struggling now to obtain any sort of presence in the center for themselves. So, once again, I played pawn e4, my opponent played c5, and I played c3, which, by the way, is the Alpine Sicilian, but you need to understand the concept before you see the move, or play the move rather, because it's a very ugly move. It blocks in the knight, but it has an objective, which is to conquer the center. And so that is the reason why black's two best moves here are d5 and knight f6, because they both challenge the other pawn on e4, disallowing white enough time to conquer the center. Therefore, d6 is already suboptimal, and capture is even worse, because now they allowed my pawn to be upgraded from side center to center, and now my knight is freely ready to go to c3. Opponent plays g6. Oh, good. And we should just develop here without any fuss. So we are going to play knight f3, which brings about the second concept I'm talking in detail in this course, which is, generally speaking, when you play a random opening, there is a concept there which is knights before bishops. And the reason why we tend to follow that is because usually knights go to these two squares more often than not. But the bishop placement can be quite varied depending on what our opponent is doing. Now, a third idea in this course is that whenever possible, developed knights should be kicked, and I can do that now with e5. But e5 d allows a queen trade, which I'm not super excited about. So my brain goes like, I wanna really play e5. Now, a really bad way to prepare that, by the way, not really bad, but I'm fortunate enough to play, for a lot of low-rated players, he would be bishop d3, which is developing. It gets the bishop out, prepares for castle, and sort of covers the d file, and therefore prepares e5. But the bishop is placed suboptimally on d3. It then allows a bishop g4 pin, which is a bit pesky, and also after e5, take knight d5 ideas may be possible, because the bishop on d3 is clogging up the d file. What I'm thinking instead is to sneak in a check, because I'm reckoning with bishop d7 or knight d7, both of which allow e5, and after de, there is no queen trade because the bishops are interposing. More importantly, if after bishop b5, bishop d7, e5, they take my bishop, I take the knight and I win a piece because both bishops are under attack. Let's give it a whirl. Funnily enough, I reckon, I don't think this guy, sorry, I don't want to sound disrespectful, but I was about to say I don't think that my opponent is going to play knight c6 because that looks the worst. And there's every chance that that was the best move, because then I don't have e5 for the same reason, take, and the queens come off, and then knight g4, whereas knight c6, d5, a6. Oh, actually, hang on, bishop a4, but then b5, dc, ba. That would have been a bit messy. Now I'm very excited to play e6. Oh, Freudian slips. Okay, so I'm excited to play e5, but I'm already envisaging that e6 may be on the cards, which is a typical way to mess with your opponent's pawn structure. So, for example, take knight g4. I'm gonna play e6 like my life depended on it. And that's gonna force fe, splitting the black pawns, creating this ridiculously awkward double isolated on the e file. The knight is no longer covered by the bishop on g4 due to the pawn on e6. That's a visualization exercise. So yeah, we are playing absolutely by the beginner book, the Andras Stoltz Chess Basics opening strategy. That is 101. And now the knight has gone back to g8. So now our development lead has increased. There are a number of candidate moves that I'm quite excited about. I'm still considering e6. Because my plan is that if fe, I then can play knight g5. And I don't see how they defend e6. If bishop takes b5, there is a beautiful motif. And this is, by the way, where we move away, admittedly, from the realm of the beginner level. But you saw that I set up the winning position, more or less, by beginner concepts. Center, development, kicking enemy developed pieces, and ta-da. So, what I'm thinking now is e6, fe, knight g5, bishop takes b5, knight takes e6. And I'm already realizing that it probably won't work. Because then they have queen a5. Knight g7. King f7 and the knight gets trapped. Technically I can check the bishop down, but I'm not so pleased about that. So plan B. e6, fe, knight g5, bishop takes retake. And it's also not good enough because they have queen a5 check again, tagging the knight. I'm very reluctant to let go of this idea, not gonna lie. e6 takes looks way too good to be not working. Knight g5, bishop b5. So one more time, if knight e6, if queen d7, the idea was to play knight takes b5, when neither knight can be captured because of the knight c7 check. So e6, fe, knight g5, bishop b5, knight e6, queen a5. If only I could play b4 there, that would be nice. I almost can. Actually, that is fascinating. So e6, fe, knight g5, bishop b5, knight e6, queen a5, b4, queen b4, knight g7 check, king f7, queen f3 check, king takes g7, rook b1. Yeah, it's a bit fishing in murky waters, a bit too much for my liking. By the way, probably I should just stick to basics and just pull the bishop back to c4 and be happy. Because then I have queen b3, I have got knight g5. There is every chance that they will play bishop g4 falling into bishop f7. Not that I count on that, but it's a natural thing to do. Bishop c4, knight h6 appears best. But then... even then I have e6 actually. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull back. I'm just gonna pull back. It was a beautiful opportunity for me to do a bit of a calculating exercise there, and I'm not even sure if I did it correctly in the sense that I might have had more there than I thought I did. But we'll see. I think black's only move here is knight h6. Everything else seems to lose more or less by force. And after knight h6, I'm not sure how I'm going to proceed. There is queen b3. There's bishop g5. This is a really filthy move threatening to take. Yeah, I don't mind that actually. Just in the spirit of developing all of my pieces, right? Yeah, I reckon if knight h6, we might go bishop g5. And if takes, I take back. If they castle, then there is another tempo to be scored on the knight. Knight f5 and then rook d1. And now the bishop is in trouble. That looks like a decent way to proceed. Not necessarily the only, not necessarily the best. But it is a way to proceed. I also am considering knight h6. Ooh, hello. Knight h6, e6. So what is the issue here, guys, is that my opponent constantly keeps on betraying the concept of development. And now they have moved again the same piece. So in this opening, they moved the knight twice to throw, and then the bishop twice here and here. And that usually means that you are doing something really, really, really badly. And things are going to go sideways almost inevitably. So, bishop takes e6, fe6, knight g5, queen d7, queen b3, pawn d5. It looks... Oh, knight b5 with the other of knight c7, wow. Knight a6 though. Not quite a forced win yet. I could have played take, knight g5, queen d7, then take, and then queen b3, which would create a lot more scope for the remainder of my pieces. Yeah, I'm just going to do this. By the way, d5 was my other idea. And that looks very, very healthy as well with the subsequent check. But this looks cleaner. So let's just go with this. And then knight g5. Note that I also have queen f3, by the way, tickling this as well as that. But the upcoming queen d7 is going to deal with the threat on b7. So queen f3 could be well met by knight h6. A concept I'm talking about in the course, by the way, although it's not covered as a chapter, but definitely mentioned multiple times, is that you should never play moves that force your opponent to play the best move they have. So after queen d7, I'm not going to force knight h6 because that's the move they should want to play. Yeah, I reckon queen d7 I will take queen b3, d5, and I will just castle. And that is going to open up another 7,000 threats. Yeah. Chess is easy, or made easy when it's played by a high-rated player, a titled high-rated player against a low-rated player. What you do observe, however, is that what I'm doing here that is potentially, maybe impressive for someone of this rating range is the calculation that I back up the principal chess with. But note that my calculation would be worth absolutely zilch if I did not have the foundation laid. And that is exactly, by the way, what the course Andras Stoltz Chess Basics opening principles is going to give you, is that I'm offering you the foundations. So then when you get into positions like this, actually no, you will basically pave your way to get into positions like this. What will happen after that is going to be the subject of, potentially another course based on calculation and opening traps too, which ironically I do have a course on 3 in fact. But yeah, so this is not magic, and this is not really the hardest part of chess, although sometimes it does take a fair bit of discipline to stick with these guns, the development, the central control, the being aware of where your opponent's pieces are and how you push them around, yada yada yada. People step out of those things very, very often, as per modeled, by the way, for example, in the video I did about 4 videos ago, the how and why we talk ourselves into bad moves. Note how many times I talked myself into ugly looking moves, or note how many ugly moves I have played. None whatsoever, right? Now you could argue that it's because my opponent didn't pose any threats or problems, but hand in heart, how many of you would have gone here bishop b5, e5 and not bishop e2 to take the sting out of the pin, or h3 even, God forbid, again to take the sting out of the pin, or bishop d3, which I do think is suboptimal. So there are multiple ways how these concepts got compromised, or can get compromised, and that's what makes chess difficult and beautiful. By the way, there is an entire chapter dedicated to this and this and this and this, and why we should try our best to avoid them, and what kind of mentality is what we need to deploy that helps us to avoid constantly playing bunny ears. King d7 was a very desperate move by the opponent. I really don't understand the logic when someone plays a move like this. Like, clearly Queen d7 would have done the same job without compromising king's safety. Why would you go king there? Anyway, now the double threat is unstoppable. So essentially we have got game over. But again, I would like to emphasize that I did nothing other than playing chess basics opening principles, or principled opening in this case. So queen e6 check is a threat, knight e6 double attack is a threat, queen b7 check is a threat. It is as good a time as any to just throw in the towel. I don't think my opponent will, but they could really well do so. So yeah, the course has been out, by the way, for almost a week now. I think it was released on Monday, yes. Oh, hello! Okay, so now I see a mate pattern with queen here, knight here. Oh, baby! Okay. Oh, boy. Yeah, alright, so he went a bit silly here, but what's there not to like about this? Okay, so I'm very reluctant to go queen b5, king c7, knight e6, because it only wins a queen. And that's not the purpose of the game. I want a mate. The problem is that if I start with knight takes, controlling c7 and thus introducing the mate threat on b5, my opponent does have queen a5 only move, stopping the threat. Now at this point, the irony is that queen b6 doesn't stop the threat, because then queen a4 check is mate next. Now, based on the last two moves, I'm very, very reluctant to believe that my opponent would play the literal only move that stops the mate. But I always play the position and not the opponent, or try to. And so as much as I dislike myself for doing this, I'm going to play the move that I think wins the fastest, cleanest, without any counter chance whatsoever. I would love to go for knight e6, queen b5 mate, but I feel like I would be a cheapie if I did that. So let's go check, and our opponent is going to resign probably when the fork comes, because people get very disheartened when they lose their queen. Yep, so what happened was that we played a very solid game on the back of chess principles. Now, I want to check if bishop b5 was best, because I was talking that move up and nothing like, you know, getting a feedback that actually that was complete garbage. So let's have a look. 95.8. That's not really good, considering that my opponent played really poorly. I expected it to be a lot higher, 98-ish. So okay, so where did we lose the key? And it sounds like I'm being obnoxious, but seriously, like, when you face virtually zero resistance, it's quite surprising that you would drop. Yeah. Oh, best! I'm very happy about that. Best. Oh, okay, so this is where we slipped. I wasn't sure about that. So it might have been that e6 was best. That's quite possible. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let's see. No, it was actually ED. That was a move I didn't even consider for a second. So what's the story here? Oh, and just castles and then just kill the king on the e-file. Fair enough. Okay, that's logical. Although after castle's 97, that king is still in the middle. So, but okay, whatever. I'm cool. Bishop c4, bishop e6 takes. Oh, takes wasn't best either. Hello. Okay, so what was d5 was better? I mean, I get it. Okay, fair enough. So the idea of this is that if my opponent plays knight d7, then after takes 6, knight g5, there is no way to defend the pawn. Fair enough. But I feel like that is just splitting hairs. Again, king d7 was terrible. Queen b3 best. Yep. Did I have a false mate that I missed? No, thank God. Okay. Although apparently after knight e6, their only move is king d7. I thought it was queen a5. Is there a mate here that I missed? No, there is no mate, just d5, and we are going to win the house. Okay, so yeah, that was it, guys. This is what it looks like when, you know, an international master, but whoever anyway, has got firm and very good understanding and ability to deploy that understanding of what we call, let's go, chess basics. That is it, my friends, opening strategy. So I feel like I displayed a fair bit of what I'm talking about in this course. And once again, I would like to stress, this is well and truly for beginners. But by the same token, I can't help but say, I utilized virtually the very best of what's in this course to get into a completely winning position against a 1400 guy in 1510. So yes, it is beginner stuff, but yes, you will also use this even when you are 2800 GM. So that's it, folks. This was Inside My Head for today, mixed together with by the way, I dropped a new Chessable course. Please check them both out. Don't forget to chuck me a like, a comment, and other kinds of fluff on YouTube that I usually would like, subs and all that stuff. Please do check out the Chessable course as well. If it's up your alley, have a go at it. And yeah, let me know how you liked it. Thank you very much, guys, for watching. I will be back with the next soon. Bye. Let me say bye without that thing in my head. Bye.